Hello and welcome from Chicago. In this lesson, I'm going to contrast web services with something that may be a bit more familiar, websites. You can see on the screen that I've got my browser open to Amazon. The idea is to give us a feel for how web services are like websites. After all, they both include reference to the web, but also how they differ. And this, in turn, will help us get a better sense of what web services are good for. So I'm here at Amazon. Again, I'm using a browser quite obviously. And now I'm going to do typical browser type things. I'm going to do a search. So I'm going to type in the name of an author and a book. Let Amazon do a little bit of searching. And as you can see, I get some results. Now let me just point to the obvious. I'm in a browser. I send a request to the Amazon web server. The Amazon web server responds with HTML, which my browser then displays. I can continue this, of course. I can continue my searching. I can place an order. I can change my credit card. I can decide whether I want the book that I ordered to be gift wrapped, all of that good stuff. What I'd now like to do is approach this same process from a different angle. And of course, that angle is going to be web services. So to that end, let me close this down and bring up my Emacs editor. You're looking at one of the working files. It's called wishlist.txt. It's very simple. And the first entry is reminiscent of a database record. So you'll see the author's name in the first column, Hilary Mantel. Second column, name of novel. Third column, ISBN number. And then the fourth column is the maximum amount that I'm willing to pay for this book. The ellipses, of course, are the danger point for me because these are other books or items on my wish list. So here's the general idea. I have this little file. It's my wish list. I could now write a program basically in any language I like. And nowadays, almost every language has sufficient libraries to do what I want to do. So I write a program which basically is a web service client, and it goes against the Amazon e-commerce web service, not the web site that we just visited. And the reason for this is that Amazon has been particularly good at pairing websites with web services. In the case of the e-commerce site service pair, anything that I can do there interactively, I can do programmatically. Now again, you may be like I am. I actually enjoy the process of browsing for books, looking them over, mulling over whether I want to buy a given book and so forth. So I like the shopping process, but the point of interest here is that we could automate this. Now, I didn't pick Amazon by accident. Let me bring up another one of the working files. It's called amazon.txt, and this is just a very quick summary of what Amazon has pioneered over the years. So the e-commerce service is the one that we just talked about. Amazon also has the simple storage service, S3 for short. Some of you may be using that. It's got cloud computing services under the label EC2, and the general point that I'd like to make once again is that you can access all of these, in the case of Amazon, as either websites or as web services. Now there's going to be some obvious differences. So there you see a 3-bullet summary of websites and web services. And what I'd like to do, rather than read that summary, you can see it. It's not very long. I'd like to make some general points. One of the attractive things about web services is that they piggyback on existing infrastructure. In particular, they piggyback on web servers such as Nginx, Apache 2, Tomcat, which is a Java-based web server. We'll be seeing quite a bit of that. They piggyback on other technologies as well, HTTP, including HTTPS. The interaction from the client side with either a site or a service is fairly familiar. It's basically request response. The big difference, of course, comes in the software that is used on the client side. So if you visit a website, you're doing so interactively, usually using a browser. If you're visiting a web service, you're doing that programmatically. And except in development or perhaps test mode, you're certainly not going to use a browser you're going to use what I'm going to call an arbitrary program. So you're going to write a web service client in some program of choice or some language of choice and use that to talk to the web service. So there are notable similarities and there are some minor differences. From either a programmer's or a business person's point of view, the real appeal of web services is that everything you need to do them is probably already at hand. And Java, as we're going to see, is particularly good both for writing web services and for writing clients against those web services.